I'm Dan, and this is 10,000 Hours of Indie, a podcast exploring new music and delving deeper into what goes on in the background of the independent music industry. I'm a musician and passionate music lover, and I wanted to delve deeper into new music in the independent scene around the world. I also saw this as a chance to help artists connect and share their stories, so if there's someone you hear and you want to find out more about, every podcast has links in the show description. Get involved, help this community grow, follow on the 10,000 Hours of Indie socials, you can find all the links in the show description. And also feel free to email me about anything music related, 10,000indie@gmail.com. I'm open to any ideas and love listening to your promos. In this episode, I'm speaking to Henrik Schmidt, the composer behind Norwegian band Bladverk. Plugged as lightly proggish soundscapes meets silky soft double vocals, their debut album Monumental Thrill, Monumental Chill has just been released, and I'm really enjoying it. Henrik, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you for having me here.
So firstly, congratulations. The debut album's just been released. You must be happy it's finally out there.
Yeah, thank you. It's actually really exciting. Personally, really great because it's my first debut album. It's really exciting, actually.
Yeah. You've been involved in a few bands and projects before. Can you give us a little backstory as to how you started and how you reached Bladverk?
I started out playing more or less seriously in high school, I guess. And I was lucky enough to get to know some really talented guys in my hometown. And we played in a sort of a jazz rock fusion project. We never got really big or anything, but we were sort of like, we got some really cool gigs. We got some really cool contacts. We sort of got the taste of what this was about. And we also challenged each other really well musically. That sort of set that spark for me with this. I want to really do more of this. We sort of grew or went our separate ways, but some of us went into other projects later on, continued to play together. So there was a project called Shimmering, which was the solo project of our drummer, Bendik, which I was lucky enough to be included on or in. And then later on, I sort of stayed with a lot of the people from Shimmering in different bands. I've been playing a lot with one of the vocalists from Shimmering. Her name is Synne Sanden. She has a really interesting solo career. She has been playing for a long time, and she has this whole universe around her music. It's a well-thought thing. She thinks about everything, and she does a lot of it herself with the artwork and with how she dresses and the colors and everything. It's just really inspiring. So I've been playing a lot with her, both in Norway and we've been on tours throughout Europe several times. And then with some other guys from Shimmering, we also have a project called Mesa Verde. I guess I started it, and I knew that I wanted those guys to join it because that was sort of my heart project. To me, it's a classic rock band because I'm a rock guy, rock guitarist at heart. That's my basis. But a lot of people call it prog rock, and I can definitely see why. We are influenced by a lot of different kinds of music. Progressive rock definitely being some of it, especially classic progressive rock. But to me, it's basically just like it's classic hard rock, guitar-driven rock. So Mesa Verde is sort of like a heart project for me. And then now I have another heart project with Bladverk, which is a chance for me to sort of explore other types of music and guitar music that I love, which is the acoustic music. Although there are some elements of the electric guitar on my Bladverk album, it's mainly 12-string acoustic guitar and the explorations of some of the possibilities with harmonic possibilities that I get out of, a special kind of tuning, open G tuning with a low B on the lowest string. You get this sort of open, really rich harmonic soundscape, but you also get this sort of percussive effect, like the low string gets a little bit sloppy, so you get like a percussive effect when you play, and this just opens up. And then they have the 12 strings as well, so it just opens up to me the sort of real beauty that you can get from the acoustic guitar. That gets enhanced. It gets doubled at least since it's 12 strings on the guitar, and there's so many possibilities.
So, bladverk is a Scandinavian term meaning foliage or leaves. Why did you choose that as the name of the project?
To be honest, I chose it, but it was actually my wife's idea for a name. And we, sort of a cliche, but the music is really, really inspired by music, trees and forest. So we wanted a name, or I wanted a name that sort of reflected this. It sort of came out when we took the picture for the album cover, which is happening by chance. There was a thunderstorm last summer. We have a huge chestnut tree in our garden. And one day we woke up and we saw that a really, really big branch had broken off during that storm and was just lying beside the tree. And for the next days, it just started sprouting out with leaves, sort of a survival mechanism, I guess. So I am actually, it's that branch that you can see on the album cover. And for me, that picture sort of sums it up because it's just so overwhelmingly leafy and green. And then my wife just suggested, how about bladverk? I think it's a cool name. It makes me curious. When I hear that name, it makes me curious. And I just think it sums up your music. And I think that's a good idea.
Were you aware of the Swedish jazz act Bladverk Band?
Well, yes, I had to do some research when I chose my name, my band name, to see if it was available. And I haven't heard them. And I saw that there was another band out there. But I went with it anyway, since it wasn't exactly the same name. So I don't know them. I don't know their music.
So what are your influences for this particular album?
Well, again, I have to say that David Crosby, although we already mentioned him, it's a huge influence actually on me. And many of the projects he was involved with, both early in his career and some of the stuff he made later in his life, I think was really, really, really interesting. And generally, it's the big artists from Laurel Canyon in the 60s and 70s, that sort of thing. The Woodstock, the Richie Havens, Woodstock concert. Also some other artists, like in Norway, I listened a lot to Kings of Convenience. I think they are really, really a good harmonic understanding, and just like there's really, really nice vibe. Some bossa nova music. Pat Metheny is really huge influence, both his electric work, especially Pat Metheny group, early things, but of course also his acoustic stuff, which is just amazing stuff to me.
So if you had to use just one genre tag, what would you use?
The word acoustic would have to be in there, I guess. There was a really cool and nice review that I just read last night, actually. I can't remember who wrote it, but of my album. And they called it acoustic chamber pop, I think. That was pretty cool. But it's experimental acoustic folk pop. I don't know. One word, impossible for me.
So you've worked with several other really good musicians on the album. Can you fill us in on the other players on the album and what they brought to the process?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really, really, first of all, lucky and thankful that I have this sort of network of people to ask to participate and that they want to do it. It's really nice. So first and foremost, definitely it's the guy who I produced the record with, called Lars Fremlid, who I can't applaud him enough actually, because he's sort of my go-to guy when it comes to music in general. He is also a member of Mesa Verde, the rock band. We have a studio together in Oslo. I've been playing with him since that first band that I told you about, the jazz rock fusion band from high school days. So we just really click musically. He's also a great musician, really, really good drummer. So he helps with arrangements and stuff. And he also plays the drums and percussion that is on this record. He's sort of the second brain behind this project. And then the other guys from Mesa Verde, I also wanted to involve and to get their sort of the touch on this. So I have to say that most of what you hear is me, both when it comes to keys and guitars. It's not a bass guitar on the album, but it's actually do you call it like a baritone guitar? Call it that?
Yep.
Yeah, baritone. Yeah, so that's what I used for the bass tracks. And vocals is me, except that my wife actually sings a little bit on the song called Sunday Morning. Then the Mesa Verde guys, which is Jørgen Apenes, who's a fantastic drummer. He's the drummer of Mesa Verde. He plays the vibraphone on one track, and the keys, piano player from Mesa Verde, Jonas Lundekvam, he plays piano solo. So I sort of got their influence. And then the biggest contributor is a big hero of mine, actually, musically, called Håkon Kornstad, who plays the saxophone and flute on, I guess, 3 or 4 tracks in total. He also made sort of like a big, sort of painted the album with his colors, and it just turned out so nice. It was really fun to have him with me on this project.
You released 4 singles prior to the release of the album. Do you feel you sort of gained some good momentum for that leading into the album release?
I think so. It's always interesting with that to sort of see how much attention it picks up and stuff, and you never know. And I wanted to try to use the momentum that you have just by releasing an album, you know. I wanted to enhance that in a way. So I made a plan for the release of the singles and the album with Robin, a great guy from the record company Apollon Records. And I really wanted to do this sort of like a little bit of intense sort of thing, like a new single every week, every Friday. And then I thought, how can I make it even more interesting than that? How about trying to have some people making animated music videos to these singles? So I reached out. Everything has happened really fast, but I reached out to different artists that I actually just found on Instagram. You spent a lot of time going through different artists, animators, and started contacting those. And they actually said, yes, I want to be a part of this. So I've been releasing 4 singles, and each of them has their own music videos. There are 2 videos that still are yet to be released. There's one week from now, and then one just after Easter. I don't know how many people have seen them, but to me it sort of was this thought of making a package, not just releasing the song, but sort of creating that universe around the music and letting those artists have a lot of freedom to interpret their music. The only thing that I actually told them was that this is music that is inspired from the forest or something like that. Please just interpret it however you like. And the results are, I must say, I'm so impressed by those guys, I must say.
I've seen the first 2 videos that are on YouTube at the moment, and they're vastly different. Are the other 2 completely different again?
Very, yeah. And it's just, that's a really cool element to have in my life. Just like I'm really anticipating to see what they come up with. And then, oh yeah, so this person thought this from that sort of music. And then this person thought something completely different. Still having them to sort of using their own style and not telling them what to do or anything. I want their style. I want it to be their work. So I just love that. And of course, it's not the same song that they make it from, but still it's from the same sort of musical universe. And I think it's just so amazing that you can get so different interpretations from that sort of same basis.
As you mentioned already, you play a lot of 12-string guitar on this album. Is that something you've been doing for a few years in the background, or was it something you picked up specifically for this project?
I've been playing with that for some years now, actually, but I just really, really fell in love with it maybe 2-3 years ago and fell in love with this open G tuning that I mainly use. Now I feel that I have to move on because I sticked with that. But that was actually one of the things that I want to explore, sort of like how can I maximize that sort of sound in a way. So I look forward to experiment more with that, but I sort of got like this hook up on that. And also in Mesa Verde, I play on a double neck SG guitar, so I alternate between the 6-string and the 12-string. So I try to sort of incorporate that huge. I can tell you right away, I'm just a huge fan of Jimmy Page and John McLaughlin, and so I just had to have a double neck SG. And then, you know, on the, like I said earlier, to play on the 12-string acoustic, it's a little bit tricky, but it just opens up this harmonic world that is just like so big, so beautiful. So I can't stop.
Was this an easy album for you to make? Was there sort of some struggles you had with it, or was it pretty straightforward? You knew what you wanted to do when you set out and you just let it happen?
To me, musically, it wasn't that hard because some of the music I had from before we started recording, but a lot of it just came along as the process went on. What was a little bit challenging was actually more of the sort of finding time to do it, because there is a lot of other stuff going on. We didn't have a deadline when we started recording it. We both agreed, I'm talking about me and Lars, the producer, we both agreed that we don't want this to be a process that goes on forever. So let's just try to have as a goal that we have some progress each time we meet up and everything. And then sometimes we just had to find available dates every now and then. So I kind of felt the pressure for the progress and for me to deliver each time. So I guess the biggest challenge was sort of to make sure that you had something new when you came to the studio, or to know what you were doing, or we didn't really have time to sit in the studio and try too many ideas. I had to have this plan. But I just figured out that I think at least for this process, it worked really well to have sort of that sort of pressure. It made me produce, made me deliver, at least I think so.
Yeah. What is your writing process? Do you come up with a riff and put the lyrics to it at the end, or is there some idea of what the theme of the song's going to be when you start, or something else?
It definitely starts with the music and from the guitar and the vocals, which also there's a lot of instrumental tracks on this as well, though. But on the tracks that have vocals, the vocals tend to be maybe not the last thing that I think of, but it doesn't start with it. So it always starts with the guitar. Sometimes it starts with me wanting to, it would be cool to try to make something that does this or this, sort of like that has this vibe or this feeling. And sometimes it just starts with a chord or a finger-picking style that I find interesting and inspiring, and then it just like rolls from there.
How long did the album take to make? Forgetting the process of waiting for the record label to release it, but in terms of actual music, how long did it take?
I would say it took about 6 or 7 months to record, but what I mean by that is that it was from May to January or something, and sometimes we met 2 times a week, and sometimes we didn't meet for 3 weeks. So it was definitely, I haven't got the number of days, but I guess total amount of days was like 20 days or something like that. It was relatively fast actually with the recording, I would say. And then Lars, I have to mention Lars, the producer. He's also the one who has mixed the record. He's really talented in that. So that took he's actually kind of fast. So I had a couple of days for that as well, and then it was a fairly fast process, total days.
So which track would you use to showcase your music to a new listener? Maybe
I would have to say Rapids, which is the first song on the record, because there's a reason why I chose to have that as the opening of the album, because I sort of think that it sets the tone in a way. It's really, really focused on the acoustic 12-string guitar sound that I wanted to have on this whole record, multi-layered with acoustic guitars, like this, sort of trying to make this sort of wall of sounds stuff, especially in the beginning. And the whole feel of the song to me is a really like enthusiastic, optimistic push feel.
Only because I got really poetic with this when I was writing it. I want to say my favourite tune is More Muir. Despite not having any vocals, it's like this intricate winding journey, and for me it feels like a summer day in a field with a sort of mild breeze to take the heat out the sun.
That is great. I must say I'm really happy with that song too, so thank you. That's nice to hear. Really nice to hear. And I think it's so cool that you also use these sort of descriptions of elements or nature or to sort of like to describe it, that sort of hits home with me.
So onto social media. There's just one single slightly out of focus picture of you on your Instagram page. Has it been a conscious thing not to be the face behind the music for this project?
Yeah, I must say, and I think that later probably I show more of myself, from live settings or something like that. But to me, it's definitely the music that is in focus here. And since I was lucky enough to work with these fantastic animation artists for the music videos, I sort of got all that cool content, which is way more interesting to watch than or look at than me. So you can listen to the music and you can watch these really, really cool animations, and that sort of just fitted in the way I want to present my music, I guess. To sort of like try to make a universe out of it.
So what is your plan regarding playing this album live? Are you going to, or are you just going to let it gently simmer in the background while you're concentrating on your other projects?
I have a couple of plans now for this this spring, which I really look forward to. I am very, very lucky to have with me 2 other guitar players for the live setting of bladverk. I want to do the bladverk thing as a full, ensemble or full band, but I haven't got the opportunity to do that yet. But I hope that we can do that with the drums and with the keyboard player and everything. But for these upcoming gigs, it's going to be a trio format, and I also always actually wanted to do this sort of acoustic guitar trio thing, so it just adds up really, really nice. And I'm very lucky to have with me a guy named Eivind Strømstad on guitar. He's also the guitar player of a band called Mer, a progressive rock band from Norway. Really, really talented, great guy. And the other guitar player is Fredrik Beck, who also has this very, very interesting solo project where he sort of interprets Norwegian traditional folk music on the electric guitar, which is really unique to me. So those 2 players have these different qualities. I would say Eivind, in my opinion at least, he's more of like a technical guy, and Fredrik is more like, he's technical, but in another way he's like more grounded, is a little bit like dirty in a way, the playing style. And then me, I'm not sure, maybe I'm a little bit in the middle or something like that, but I think that the 3 of us, the combination is just really, really cool. And also having 3 acoustic guitar players hopefully will emulate the sound of the album as best as possible, which is sort of like a rich acoustic guitar sound. So we're going to play a couple of gigs in Bergen in April, and then there is actually an outdoors concert in the forest a little bit outside of Oslo in May, where we're going to play as well. So we have these 3 gigs coming up, and then hopefully more.
Is that going to be 3 12 strings, or is it going to be you on 12 string and the other 2 on 6?
No, it's going to be 3 12 strings,
wow.
Definitely, but also, a little bit of alternating between 12 and 6 strings and the classical guitar. But for example, rapids, all of us have to just like use the 12 strings and make them sing. Yeah, it's important for the song.
That sounds intense. I hopefully will get to see that at some stage, because that sounds incredible. Try and make a video out of it so you've got something live.
Yeah, I will definitely try to do that.
You've got those gigs planned. Are you already thinking you'd like to make another album sort of in the future, or what are your sort of plans outside of live?
I think I'd like to do that, but and there's phone is full of ideas, which I label bladverk, which is like, okay, yeah, this is sort of in that vibe, but it's definitely a little bit too early to say, because it has to sort of like fill up like the ideas and everything. It has to sort of fill up so much that it gets inevitable to wanting to, okay, now I'm going to start to record this. So I'm not there yet, and there's so much other stuff that you could fill your time with. Between, for example, Mesa Verde, we try to sort of make some new stuff and play some gigs with that project. And then all of us also have to sort of juggle with music and family life and everything going on. So it's a little bit of a puzzle.
The final question: what music are you listening to at the moment that people may not be aware of and should take some time to check out?
I think I have a good answer, and it's not in the bladverk genre at all, but it's by far the album and the band that I've been listening most to, both this year, last year, and I think maybe the year before that as well. I never experienced that sort of constant repeat. I mentioned earlier that I played with Synne Sanden in her project, and we played at a really cool festival called Spot Festival in the Aarhus in Denmark. I think it was 2024. And we played before another band. I'd never heard about them and just briefly met them going off stage when they were getting on stage and everything. And they were such an amazing band, and the concert, the experience was just like, it was just crazy good energy. They are a trio. They're called Clothing Club. They're from Denmark. I think they are from Aarhus, and they're in that sort of jazzy hip hop influenced trio, improvisational. I'm not sure how to label them. It's instrumental music, and they're really, really talented musicians. So it's a lot of improvisation, but it's so groove oriented. It's sort of like, it's almost like dance music in a way. So it was like a jazz gig where people were just like dancing around, but it wasn't jazz, it was dance music. I'm not sure how to explain it. Fresh Fade is the name of the record, and I would, at least to me, that's been on repeat, so I would definitely, recommend that, just to hear sort of like the love for music and the love for playing together. Sort of, I get that vibe from hearing those guys playing on the record. They sort of kind of really capture that.
You've sold it to me.
Cool.
So for people wanting to find out more about Bladverk, they're on Instagram, YouTube and Bandcamp. Monumental Thrill, Monumental Chill by Bladverk is out now on Apollyon Records. It is currently available to stream, but will be available physically on vinyl. Henrik, thanks for being here. It's been a pleasure to find out more about the album.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's been great. Thank you.